Welcome to the Los conference room. At the tone, please record your name, followed by the pound key.
Paltiel.
Thank you. You are now at on participant number 5.
Could I ask something?
What'd you say?
I could ask something before.
I can't hear what you said.
I want to ask something.
Okay, let me first establish where we're going to start. Okay, so we will start just below the middle of the page. Hey, the line begins with Hatzimtzum. Yeah, okay.
It's not a part of the Shiva. It was said yesterday that the Shmuel was hated from Yeshua and Avru was hated from Lakis. I did not really understand. Explain it better. How do we see it? And what Chesed is based on? Where does the
Well, actually, we discussed when we talked about mitzvahs coming from Rotzen Golui. So we discussed how tzedakah is the fact that the whole creation is only from tzedakah and so forth. I'm not going to go there right now. This is not what we're learning. The principle that we need to understand is the Ayin that Torah nikras derech, and which means that this is what you said, Torah nikras derech, because to Torah you mamshich elokus, and this is the pshat Avram. He served Hashem through midas chesed. His chesed was a reflection of the chesed eliki. He said with chesed because he was so to speak, completing the chesed Hashem. Hashem is providing chesed, and we bring that chesed to its conclusion, to its practical and complete functional effect. And this is the infant chesed that he brought in wayfarers and gave them support, or gave them food. This is because he was bringing forth and extending Hashem's chesed all the way to its practical level. Chesed Yishmael is something else. It's reflecting his own metzius and his own grandeur, that he is Ayisha Chesed. It's completely different inyan. This is Chesed Klipa and Chesed Kedusha. But we are interested in the Chesed Kedusha because this is the derech of Hashem, because through Torah this is the derech, the pathway through which Elokus is brought into the world. Okay, so we are starting here in the middle of this line, beginning with the word Hatzimtzum, which is a couple of lines below the middle of the page. Can find it? Here's Hatzimtzum, and here's where we start. Of all people, you should know exactly where it is because you were stuck on those words over there. Right. But now you're unstuck. Okay. וזהו גם כן This too is reflected in the fact Masha HaTorah Nikras Derech. In fact, the Torah is called Derech.
What's this too? This.
You'll see in a minute. The Torah is called Derech. Kumisha Kosov, as the Pasuk says, V'shomru Derech Havaya Lases Doko Mishpot. This is a Pasuk that is Hashem's speaking and thinking regarding Avraham, that Avraham will instruct his offspring, V'shomru Derech Havaya, that they will guard the Derech Hashem, the pathway of Hashem. Lases Doko Mishpot. That the Derech Havaya is Lases Doko Mishpot. This is the Inyan HaTorah. Ukmei al Derech Moshel. This is going back to this which we spoke. Al Derech Moshel. This is like in the Moshel. B'amshochas hamayim. In the drawing of water, Derech Hatzineiros. When you draw the water, Derech Hatzineiros, through the direction, through the pathways and the turns of the tzineres, of the conduits. With the conduits, you can direct the water any place you want. And similarly, b'amshochas hadrochim me'yer le'yer. And the same is b'amshochas hadrochim in drawing of the pathways or the roads me'yer le'yer, from city to city. Harei, so there it's obvious that yesh bozeh chochma amuka. There is a deep wisdom involved. What is the wisdom? Eich yiyeh eifan hamshochet hatzinin bichlal. How should be the hamshochet hatziner, the drawing in the bichlal, means the general tziner. The fact that there is the major artery, so to speak, that draws the water from the river, how that should be established. And similarly, in the smaller tzineres, in the individual tzineres, there is as we discussed, and now we're going to point it out perhaps more conclusively, there's a difference between the tziner bichlal and tzineres protim. And the difference is, tzineres bichlal, this is what draws water in a controlled manner, but does not have a specific destination, a specific and intent to reach a certain particular point and to supply that with water. It is a general drawing of water, and that in a drawing of water in a manner that this would enable the tzineres protim, enable to draw the sub conduits. So in tzineres klal, hamshochas hatziner bichlal, how to establish a tziner, that the water should no longer flow in the power of the river, but it should flow in a tziner manner. That requires chokhmah. B'chein, likewise, by tzineres protim, in the individual and particular and specific tzineres, b'oifon, in a manner that it should be established in a manner sheyagiyu hamayim l'chol keli b'fnei atzmi, that the water should reach each keli individually. And that the water should not go into a crooked pathway. It should not go to waste. It should not go to a place where it shouldn't, where it's not necessary, where it's not needed. V'gam, and also this is all part of the plan of this sinner. There is also necessity, and here is where we also employ the chokhmah, sheyiyeh chibur v'kesher, that there should be maintained a connection, behiluch zeh, in this extent, in this movement, gam mehuz ha'acharein, that there should be a connection between the mehuz ha'acharein, the very last aspect, el hamokir horishain, to the primary and the first source, shemimenu mekalech hatziner, from which the tziner flows water. No matter how convoluted and complex the system, the labyrinth of these tzinoros, of these conduits should become, it is necessary to provide a direct flow, a direct connect between the end, between the last, like we say, the last faucet and the original conduit, the original tziner that draws the water from its infinite source.
So the general tzino bichlal, is it actually a physical one, or it's a theoretical one?
What?
The actual general tzino,
Right.
is actually a physical one, or it's like a theoretical?
No. You're talking in the mashal or in the nimshal?
In the mashal.
In the mashal, yeah, it's a physical tziner.
Okay. It's the starting point of the tzino system.
Yeah, you the way the canalization system is made. You have a very large conduit. You can't draw small conduits from the river.
Okay.
You have to have a controlled flow of water, which is this conduit. And from this you have smaller and yet smaller and yet smaller.
Okay.
As it passes through various cities, you have a conduit large enough to supply for the water for the entire city. But then you have to break it down to supply water for every section, and for every street, and for every house.
Right.
You go into the shower room over here.
Mm.
How do you think this is built? You have 6 showers, and they all flow water. And if it were made properly, they would all flow water with the same intensity. And how is that done? You have a pipeline that is big enough to supply 6 different tzinoros, and from that you take individual tzinoros. So one does not interfere with the other.
The bigger flow is subdivided in basically.
What?
The bigger flow is subdivided
That's
in
right.
smaller ones.
What?
Where it's saying over here, "Hareyesh b'zeh chokhmah muka," there is great wisdom. Is this meaning that the design itself takes great wisdom, or is there something deeper that we're meant to be understanding?
No, right
from it?
now in the mashal, the design takes great wisdom. Let me point out what all of a sudden the Rebbe starts talking about chokhmah muka.
Yeah.
The first level of the draw is from Rotzain in the Nimshal. Come on the Nimshal, then you will understand how to Mashal. In this aspect, we'll go the opposite way. Because in the Mashal, you don't see Chochmah, you see a practical thing. You know, what's the big deal.
Plumbing.
But the Chochmah element we'll understand how it is in the Nimshal. As we said all the time, the Rotzoin is a fundamental reality, and it is all encompassing, and it encompasses everything, not by everything being present, but by everything being included in one whole reality.
Not by being present, but by...
And when this is brought down into Chochmah, then, even though the entire brightness of it is brought down, still, because it is an observation, because it is in Chochmah, it is possible to identify individual elements and to provide for for the various, eventually to various midos and so forth. So the same. So and this is what affects. This is the chokhmah. The chokhmah element. The chokhmah is able to break down the basic reality and identify within it all kinds of different details. This is the chokhmah. And is able then to assign and say, under these circumstances, do this. Under these circumstances, do this. Essentially, in all aspects, do this or do this is all reflective of the original truth, the original principle. But you have to identify it and correlate it to specific instances. And that's in Chokhmah. The Rotzen cannot relate to that. And this is, but in the Mashal, it's also the same thing. If someone would want to build individual tzinoros to draw water from the river directly, it would overflow. It would not work. And the way to do it is you have to build a tzinoor. And when you build this tzinoor, it has to be measured appropriately in terms of how much water do you want to draw into it. And why do you need to limit? You must limit it, otherwise, again, you will defeat your purpose.
Mm-hmm. It seems like after Tzimtzum, Chokhmah is what seems to be the major element of what occurs, because it's the intelligent disperser of the ore.
Well, yes, you're saying it all the time. But Chokhmah is not a direct disperser. Chokhmah provides for the disbursement. Like we say, that Chokhmah is, we say the Mosel Chokhmah is sight. In sight we have two elements. We see the entire panorama at a glance, and we see details in it. The panorama as it is in its own truth does not consist of details. It consists of the entire reality of the entire space and the entire background. And to identify individual aspects, one of the big challenges of architecture, of land design, you come to a beachhead. You come to New York, the beachhead. Look at the wilderness. And you say to yourself, how can this ever be cultivated? How can you ever settle this land? It's not meant for settling, it's meant to be wild. But then when you begin to apply it to observation, not just relate, oh, there's a piece of land there. When you start observing it, then you see, no, there is beachhead, there is water area, and there is, and 50 feet away, it's dry land. And you can cultivate it. You can just cut down some of the forestry and build inhabited areas. So what is this? This is the chokhmah, that this provides the ability eventually to break it down into individual, to show that there, yes, indeed, it provides for subsets, whereas originally in the initial reality, it doesn't talk about subsets at all.
What Chokhmah sees does not talk about the pratim.
That's right.
How it speaks to the next level.
That's right. That's what we said. That whole inner the tzimtzum. What did the tzimtzum affect? What was the tzimtzum didn't? I said the whole time the tzimtzum didn't change anything in the oir. On the contrary, you have the same oir back. What was the primary service function of the tzimtzum? In one word. That now this oir is in a state of hamshocha rather than in a state of ein sof. Even though you mamshich the whole thing, but it's hamshoch. I give a mashal for this. You are a multi-billionaire and you want to support the entire city. I mean, there are different instances. The Gemara says that during the siege, the Roman siege on Yerushalayim, there were 3 wealthy people in the city, and each one of them was able to supply certain aspects, certain necessities for the city for a very long time. For every dweller, wood and wheat and so forth. If not the Vayon that burnt it out, the city would have been able to defend itself for a long time until the Romans would have given up, perhaps. So how did this apply it? So there are 2 ways to do it. One way is take down the walls and let everybody just flow into it. That doesn't work. Yes, you want to open it, but the way to do that is to keep the wall and open windows. And people walk over to the window and say, okay, I have this many people in my house and in my home, and this is and you give it. You don't take the walls down. This is the tzimtzum element. You allow things to flow through a process, through a conduit, through a process. That process enables you to identify, you have 6 people in your home. Okay, 6. You have 10 people, you have 10 people. You have 2, you have 2. If it were just a breakdown, there's no tzimtzum, there would be no such identity.
This is the effort of Chokhmah more than Bina.
This is not an effort. Chokhmah provides for Bina. Chokhmah brings it in a form of hamshoch. And once it's hamshoch, in other words, you're not going into the storage ham, but it's being brought from it, then automatically it enables you to identify how much is brought out. The Chokhmah brings it out in a flow. That's it. And once it's brought on the floor, then it goes into Bina. Bina is able to identify the various aspects that you can do with it. When the Gemara says that they were able to supply, I think for 3 years, I don't remember what it is, that was already a chokhmah. Because otherwise you would say, oh, they had a lot of wood, they had a lot of wheat. That wouldn't say anything. That wouldn't give you a measure. You couldn't, so to speak, base yourself and gear yourself according to what you have. But if you say, okay, you have this much, this is it, then you were able to gauge yourself what there is. Okay? And that's why I said that there has to be a lot of Chom, because if you break down the walls and you let everything flow, it's just going to go to waste. And then, of course, there is a necessity that it should continue to maintain a connection to the source. Why does it need a connection to the source? Because it needs to have a continuous flow. Otherwise, you're not doing anything either.
Because it needs to be pushed, the water by the faucet needs to be pushed forward.
Right. Similarly, in the following the pathways, the walking through the pathways, it's traveling, through all the cities. It's necessary that the drachim should be built in a manner that they will touch all the cities. You can build a huge highway, and it goes through a desert, and doesn't do anything. It's a well-known principle in highway buildings, is that you should build it in a manner that it should not interfere with the city, with the internal workings of the city, but it should be as close to the city as possible, so that the highway actually facilitates commerce, intercity business development. If the highway is at a distance from the city, it doesn't do anything for the city. It passes by, it connects. We have in the United States, this interstate system. It's really a wonderful system. It was built way back in the 50s. So this interstate, they've divided the country east-west and north and south. So if you want to go west, you take highway, you have Route 80 from New York all the way to Los Angeles. There is a Route 80 that connects you. At Los Angeles, whatever, someplace on the west. These are many different sections, but they're all Route 80. There are federal sections and there are state sections, but they're all interconnected. And that way, it really, but it was built with with a lot of wisdom, so that there was no waste. If you're going through the state, it goes right through the middle of the state, not around it. And that way, it serves multiple purposes, not just to get from one extreme to the other, but to connect all the intervening areas. You should not err, and you should not lead him to a crooked and the wrong direction. All right, we have to stop now. Okay, so have a good day. And Mitzvah Hashem,
I think 80
Shabbos
goes,
night we'll meet again, huh?
I think 80 goes to the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's more north.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it goes north because it goes to Detroit, whatever.
Yeah, it's the more north.
There's no Fabringen this Shabbos by there.
But there will be at Baruch's house.
Baruch seems, whoever called Baruch last night determined that it'll probably be 9:45, he said? Daniel.
I think David called him.
Yeah, David, he said
He
9:45.
didn't say what time. He said he was going to send that.
The
He said it was on.
the Shabbos and Bochum schedule.
It's a different
9:45.
No, 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 nina na nina no, 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 nina na nina na nina na no 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 nina na nina na nina no 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 nina na ma 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 no 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 nina na no 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 nina na